The NBA Finals have arrived. Legacies will be written, bets will be cashed, and Giannis Antetokounmpo will maybe play or not. We don't know. We'll talk about all of it on Heat Check, presented by BetMGM and the Action Network. I'm Action Network senior NBA writer Matt Moore, joined by Preston Johnson and Justin Phan. And we're going to be bringing you the best guide to betting game one of the NBA Finals between the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll get you props, sides, totals, everything that you need to know to bet tonight's awesome game one. Let's start off with some news. Giannis Antetokounmpo remains a game time decision for game one, based on the fact that he is still recovering from a hyperextension in his knee. He was upgraded from doubtful yesterday to questionable this morning, then moved to a game time decision in the afternoon. Mike Budenholzer, coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, just spoke with the media and said he continues to be a game time decision. Typically speaking, 30 minutes before the game, coaches have to fill out the starting roster sheet, the starting five. Typically, not always, but oftentimes, if a player has been out and then inserts, he will be listed on that sheet. The coaches are not beholden to that list. He can put Bobby Portis in and then take him out later. Justin Phan, is it correct to say that we should probably wait? If you want to wait based off of the Giannis hard news, you may have to wait until just minutes before tip?
I think we'll get it sooner than that, though I would say that indications right now are that he's trending towards playing. Bucks beat writers watched him warm up with that full sleeve on his left leg, noticed that his routine, his shot selection, his movements were pretty similar, pretty in line with what a typical warm-up would look like from Giannis, warming up alongside Chris Middleton. So I would lean towards him playing right now. If you want to get in and beat the market a little bit, I wouldn't mind that, and dabbling a little bit. But yeah, that's the indication right now that he's closer to playing than not.
A reminder that everything we talk about on tonight's show is available in the Action Network app. Make sure to download that, and that all the odds are provided by BetMGM, the official sponsor of Heat Check. Let's get right into the bets here. We're going to go ahead and go over our biggest bets of the night. The big bet: where are you at on tonight's games, side or total or prop? Because we're opening things up for the NBA Finals. Preston Johnson, Sports Cheetah on Twitter. Let's start with you. What's your favorite bet that you like tonight?
So I like the Bucks team total under. Now, if Giannis does end up playing, you're going to probably get 1.5 better on a 107 or a 106.5 waiting for that news at this point. But I just can't get past this idea that, like, the Hawks defense, it wasn't that great this year. It's like they were an elite defense. Then they were missing their best one-on-one defender, DeAndre Hunter, for the entire series. Even the Nets, all anyone talked about all year was, can the Nets play defense? And then they kind of looked competent defensively against this Bucks team. And I just think this they're going to hit this wall of kind of like taken aback, meaning Milwaukee, in this Phoenix defense, which I think is a legitimate defensive team. They're elite. I know that for specifics in how these teams like to play, the Bucks like to get out and transition quite a bit, and the Phoenix Suns are really good at limiting transition opportunities. If Giannis is hobbled, or if he just doesn't play at all, then we anticipate a lot of those transition opportunities for the Bucks will be gone, and they'll have to beat this Suns team, which is, I think, number one protecting the rim among playoff teams this year, and just opponent field goal percentage in general is they're number one in that. So I don't know how the Bucks are going to get a ton of opportunities in the half court. So I like the Phoenix side some. I prefer to just go Bucks team total under. Again, at 107, I think at this point, wait for 30 minutes to an hour. If Giannis is announced in, you're going to get a better number there. If he's announced out, I think the 5.5, 6s in the market are essentially accounting for that fact already. So it should stay at a similar price. So that's where I would go, though. I don't think the Bucks can get over that number against the Phoenix Suns defense. It's just worlds better than anything the Bucks have seen for like a month and a half, honestly.
So I'm torn here between one, being grateful that I'm on the same side as someone as sharp as you, and then being mad that you copied off my paper, Preston. This is not, I don't appreciate you
I have
copying.
notes, did I?
You're fine. You did great. So that's that's I think a pretty sharp pick. Let me ask you, Justin, what's your bet? Because I think this creates an interesting discussion. What's your best bet for the night?
Yeah, it's around the same line. It's the game under at 220. And I have concerns about this Bucks offense overall, whether Giannis plays or not. More than any star, Giannis's effectiveness is compromised if he's playing hurt. he does not have a jump shot. He does not have a refined post game with go-to moves. He relies on those forays to the basket, blowing by people, turning transition opportunities into dunks. And if he's not 100%, which I do not suspect he is, I think he's closer to 80, 85%, that quickness advantage that he has is going to be negated. And it's going to be a lot harder for him to blow by defenders, get good looks, and the gravity. I mean, he's just going to be out on the perimeter, and that's just going to be a liability overall for this Bucks offense. So even if he plays at less than 100%, I don't think that's a great thing for this Bucks team overall, their Bucks offense overall. If he sits too, we saw the Bucks survive those last couple of games against the Hawks, but this Suns defense is a completely different beast. Drew Holiday is going to have to take a bigger burden, be aggressive, driving the basket. You look at any Hawks defender he faced in that series, no one is near the caliber of Chris Paul. So they're going to be able to hide Devin Booker in their series. So Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, they have so many guys there that can really limit this Bucks offense. If Giannis is limited, Giannis is out. So on the other end of the floor, we got to remember the Bucks are the number one defense in the playoffs so far. They've faced, teams that have been injured: James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Trae Young for part of that series. But we've talked about this before. I got to give Mike Budenholzer some props on the way he's adjusted his pick and roll coverage throughout the playoffs, and especially throughout the series. No better example than last year's against the Hawks. They started that series playing a deep drop. By the end of the series, they're switching pretty much everything. So I think this Bucks defense can muck things up enough to contain the Suns offense. One thing I really like from this Bucks defense, they do a great job limiting corner threes, forcing above the break threes. And the Suns 3-point percentage drops from 43% on corner threes to 36% on non-corner threes. So overall, like the way this is shaping for the under.
That's a great note on the corners. I had not thought of that, and that's a really good note, Justin fans. Almost like you're a pro at this. Preston, I want to ask you, so you like the team total under, Justin likes the under for the game. If you don't like the total under for the game, that would probably lead you to believe that the Bucks are going to struggle to score, but you don't like the combined under, that the Suns will be able to score points. Is this a game that you think there might be value on a blowout, or at least laying the 6, if not higher, on the Suns based off of that?
It's difficult sometimes to actually quantify a rest advantage for people when they see, okay, the Suns have had, I think it's 5 days off versus the Bucks, and if there's a spot with either unhealthy Giannis playing or just no Giannis coming off of finally getting into the finals and not having as much time to prepare and rest up as Phoenix, it does kind of, I think, cater towards this potential Suns blowout. I know some guys that actually bet Suns alt line prices that were paying 2 to 3 to 1, and again, they probably wouldn't bet it if they knew Giannis was playing. So it was going to be dependent on that. But that leads me to believe, again, the Suns against the Bucks defense, that's really good. I don't necessarily think they're going to drop 120. When I was just looking at my numbers and projections, I preferred a Bucks team total under to the full game. But you're right. In general, I would, if I like a Bucks team total under, I'm going to like the full game as well. I just have slightly bigger edge on the Bucks side.
Gotcha. I am also on the Bucks team total under 107. So in addition to all the points that the other two have made, the Suns are the number one team in the playoffs defending the rim. They have the lowest allowed field goal percentage at the rim in the postseason. Here's an interesting one. They are also the number one team on opponent jumper field goal percentages. So you can't hit shots at the rim and you can't hit jumpers. And if you can't do those things, it's hard to score basketball points in an NBA game. No real floater threats for the Bucks here. Drew's got one, Mid's got one, but they're not necessarily their go-to moves. They've got the guys that can stay in front of them. Those two guys run a lot of ISO action. If Giannis does play, they're probably going to blitz the pick and roll and see if Giannis can beat them a little bit one-on-one on a bad wheel, which would be kind of interesting, but also probably lower efficiency. I think Aiden being able to protect the rim does matter here. I think the Bucks will probably be forced to try and spread them out a little bit, which is what the Clippers did. The problem has been, and this is a note that I've just mentioned over and over and over again, the Bucks in this season in the playoffs, a team has hit 10 or more threes in 74% of the games. The Bucks have done it in about 60%. They've done it in 9 of 17. Like, it's a startling differential between the two. They don't hit threes, even though they're open, even though they're quality looks. It's really maddening if you're somebody that's bet on the Bucks, not speaking from experience. Plus the Bucks, and I think that Preston put this well, the Bucks just haven't faced quality defense since round one. The Heat were honestly the best defense that they faced, and they eviscerated them because of the matchups and a number of things with the Heat. The Nets were not a good defensive team all year. They were relying on Blake Griffin to get stops. And the Hawks really didn't have the kind of rim protection that they needed. Capella's good in specific instances, but wasn't good in that matchup. And they didn't have enough rim protection on top of it. The Suns do. They're a tough physical team. I'm with Preston. I like the team total under 107. Let's go to the wheel. We've usually in this segment, we do just player props, but we're opening up for the finals. And we've got a number of props selected from BetMGM. They've been randomly selected. We've had to prep for all of them. Depending on where the wheel lands, that's what we've got to decide if we're going to take it or not. So we're going to start with Preston Johnson. Preston, are you ready for the wheel?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's spin it. Evan Abrams. There we go. All right, first basket. Who do you like for first basket?
All right. So first, I'm just going to take a long shot because it's a prop that typically you're not going to find a ton of value betting these regularly anyway. But I had this vision last night while I was sleeping. We can call it a dream of Bucks going back and reverting to drop coverage early in the series because that's been their MO all regular season, and Chris Paul coming around a screen from Ayton and getting to like that mid-range spot. And for some reason he doesn't take it and he just swings it over to Jay Crowder, who's sitting on the wing up top, because the Suns typically like to limit corner three attempts. The Bucks do. So they give up a lot of threes. Crowder was sitting there on the bottom of my screen. I'm seeing it right now in my dream, bottom side, top of the break. And he just switches a three to start it off. Where he left off, I should say, Western Conference Finals too. He was just scorching in Game 6. So he's 14-1. Jay Crowder 3-ball to be the first bucket scored. I'm taking a shot. It must be destiny.
We need to get a book to put up the prop for exactly not only first field goal, but where on the floor they hit it from. Corner.
That's right. Pull a parlay.
Let's get it. Let's get this as narrow as possible to get the best possible odds. I like it. I will say that I was on the Bucks in Game 6 versus the Hawks, and then I had a dream that Clint Capella had a monster game and the Hawks won, and I went the other way.
I saw that tweet.
my dreams are much dumber than yours. So let's hope. that works out for Jay Crowder tonight. Justin Fan, are you ready for the wheel?
Let's do it.
Evan Abrams, please spin the wheel for Justin Fan. Player prop. You got any player prop you want. What do you want to take?
All right, I did not have a dream about this one, but I'm going to take Brook Lopez under 15.5 points. I projected for 13.1 if Giannis plays, 16.4 if Giannis is out. So median somewhere around 14.7 on average. I do think that it's more likely, like I said, that Giannis plays, that he doesn't. So I think there's still value on getting in on some of these props. The Brook Lopez's, the Chris Middletons, the Bobby Portis's, the Pat Connaughtons before Giannis is officially ruled in. So yeah, that's the main reason behind it. I also think there's some minutes downside here for Brook Lopez. If the Bucks have to adjust their pick and roll coverage, they go to a smaller look, switch everything look. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, two deadly mid-range shooters start killing him from that range, and they have to switch things up. So currently have Brook Lopez, I think around 33, 34 minutes. Could see minutes downside. Giannis plays. Brook is below 30 minutes. Bobby Portis plays a little bit more off the bench, or they play Giannis at the 5, alongside PJ Tucker. So a lot of situations here where Brook Lopez could go well under this 15.5.
I'm really curious to see what Bud Budenholzer's approach will be versus the Saric minutes in small ball. If he goes with Portis versus if he goes with Brook Lopez, I'm going to be playing a lot of props on Game 2, I think, based off of how he counters those minutes, because Saric has been so good for him. So I don't necessarily mind that. Let's go ahead and spin the wheel for me, Evan. First basket again, twice as nice. I am going against Fan here. I'm going to take Brook Lopez plus 450. So I actually looked this up because that's how much of a nerd I am. The Bucks' first set in Game 5 without Giannis involved a dive. That was their first thing was Brook Lopez diving to the basket. He didn't get the ball, but was open. And their first real set in Game 6 out of just isolating and hunting Herter was actually had Brook Lopez open in a pick and roll set. Like twice, he was very much open. The look was there. Plus, I think the Suns are likely to pressure the ball handler more in these situations. If Giannis plays, I think probably this value goes down, but the number probably goes up on it. I do like the value on taking big men for tip-ins. I just always like the value of offensive rebounds for the big men versus everybody else. I think there's a pretty good chance that Lopez can be underneath there. I like Lopez in this matchup. I think he can actually score on Ayton. I think he's got the touch necessary, even with Ayton's physicality. And it's still plus 4.5. So even though I'm not going quite as deep on a dream as Preston, I will go ahead and take Brook Lopez plus 450. All right, in our final segment, it's an old axiom in betting. You got to fade the public because supposedly you all don't know anything, although our followers on Action Network do pretty well. We asked you on Twitter, Chris Middleton's over 27.5 points. The public likes the under at 27.5 with 54.3%. Preston, are you a man of the people or will you go against them and trust Chris Middleton?
I am a man of the people today. I don't know. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. It's been 4 or 5 straight shows. I'm pretty sure I went the other way. I agree here. Obviously, if I like the Bucks team total under, then I'm going to like some Middleton under. And especially if Giannis plays and, the 27.5 are a few points too high, just straightforward from, in a vacuum. But I will say this, kind of going back to what the Bucks have seen. Like, didn't Middleton have a 23-point quarter against the Hawks? He had another game. He had a 20-point quarter against the Hawks. You're just not going to be able to do that against Mikal Bridges, even Torrey Craig, Jay Crowder, and then even Chris Paul if it's in switches, or Ayton, who's been great from the perimeter down and protecting. It's just a different level of defense, and I don't think Middleton will have nearly the success that we all just saw in that last series. So if Giannis plays, it's a bonus, but I could only bet under at this number.
Justin, what about you?
Yeah, I'll go under too. I have at 23.6 if Giannis plays, 29.4 if Giannis is out, so around 26.5 on average. But I against the Suns, against this defense of the Suns, man, they have all the wing defenders you can have. Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, Torrey Craig, Cam Johnson even had good defensive moments so far. Just not going to get the same looks as he has in the past. And I expect Giannis is going to be 100% if he plays. So they'll continue to apply a lot more pressure on Middleton, give him the tougher assignments, make a limited Giannis beat them. So I like the Middleton under here at 27.5. It's come down at 26.5 at a lot of books so far. So, it's moving in the right direction.
Look at you guys going with the people and hanging with them. Like, look at you, just such public guys as you're always known to be. I originally had the under 27.5. I'm calling an audible here and I'm going over because I'm not just going to follow you blindly. I'm not going to follow the people and Justin and Preston. That's ridiculous. If everybody's so sure of it, I'm going the other way. I do actually have a reason for this too. So you mentioned Mikal Bridges. Here's the problem. Devin Booker guarded Middleton most of the time in the regular season, and Middleton lit him up. And you could say, like, well, this is the playoffs. They'll move him off of him. Moving him off of him actually gets tougher. You're going to get more size mismatches, and Booker's going to get banged around. If Giannis doesn't play, that means probably Portis. Do you want Booker guarding Portis? Because Portis will beat him up. Even if he doesn't score, he'll beat him up pretty bad. And they're going to target, I think, Booker quite a bit anyway. And I still think Booker gets the primary assignment on Middleton because it's harder to find other spots to guard him. So I am changing my pick, and I'm going over 27.5. I'm playing contrarian because that makes me feel smart.
You think they'll start Booker? I mean, I'm actually really surprised at that. I think they'd want to hide Booker as much as possible. If anything, maybe put him on PJ Tucker or something like that, So I would suspect that would be the case, though. I think you're correct in them targeting the switches. Booker will end up on Middleton a fair amount, though the Suns will be smart on trying to limit that as much as possible.
I agree. I think that's obviously the most comfortable spot for him, right? Is just put him on Tucker and then just kind of hide him because Tucker can't score inside and all these other kind of things. I think it's probably an adjustment. Coaches tend to want to be like, no, let's see if you can do it. Like, I'm going to give you the opportunity. That's how they tend to start these things versus being apprehensive. And Monty Williams, I think, definitely falls into that model as coach. To go over our bets for tonight, Preston likes the team total under 107 because he's a copying cheater. Brook Lopez under 15.5 points and Chris Middleton under 27.5. Justin likes the combined total under 220. Brook Lopez under 15.5 points and Chris Middleton to go under 27.5 points. Just fading the Bucks offense all sorts of ways tonight. We all are. I also like the Bucks team total under 107. Milwaukee's first field goal for Brook Lopez to be plus 450 and Chris Middleton under 27.5. Before we go, we're still waiting on news from Giannis on regards to whether or not he's going to play. I did want to go ahead and go over this. So the Suns at right now are minus 200 to win the series. Bucks plus 175. They open plus 160. This has moved heavily in the Suns' direction. Preston, if Giannis plays in this game, how does that alter your projection on the spread?
So I think the current market, at least when it was 6, I know it's getting pushed down towards 5 as we speak on screen at a few places, but I think that was kind of accounting for the fact that Giannis is going to miss. And so if he plays again, then now we're assuming he's 80%ish, Justin thinks, and maybe he'll be playing limited minutes anyway. So while typically I think Giannis is worth more than 2.5 to 3 points to a point spread, in this case, I would think maybe 3 is where this settles. 2.5, maybe if we go a little bit towards the Giannis and Bucks side. But I will say, if he was just healthy completely, never got hurt, and we were playing this series, I'd have the Bucks a 51% favorite. It's nearly a pick, but they would be an ever slight favorite despite not having home court. So that's like the swing here. Is obviously he's an MVP level player. But yeah, I would envision Giannis gets announced playing. This goes to 2.5 or 3.
Justin, if Giannis is announced in and this line moves down, I already have Suns minus 5.5. I'm probably going to double down and just take the other line on it.
Yes, I would. That would be my play. I think the market will overestimate and overreact to Giannis playing. I don't think he's as effective. I touched on that earlier. Offensively, he's just going to be a pretty decent liability if he doesn't have that quickness, ability to blow by guys, ability to turn transition opportunities into dunks like he has in the past. I think the market will overreact. So I'm waiting for that overreaction to happen a little bit and then maybe come back in on the Suns. I do want to talk about, if Giannis ends up playing tonight, this is good for the Bucks series overall. Even if they lose this game, Giannis is just being available to play. Assuming he doesn't suffer a setback during this game, re-injure that knee, it bodes well for the Bucks because I only think he's probably going to get healthier as the series goes on. So we were thinking originally maybe over under on Giannis missed games on the series like 1.5. And if he plays the first game, looks decent, makes it through fine, then if the Bucks end up losing game 1, I think there's value in getting back in and betting the Bucks series, depending on where that new price comes out at.
I think the counter argument to that is probably the risk of re-injury. My understanding with the hyperextension is there's no way to know. There was supposed to be no structural damage on Giannis, but there's no way of knowing exactly what it is or how it's going to impact it. You would assume, the easy thought is to be like, you would assume that the Bucks would never put Giannis out there if there's a chance that he could be re-injured. Giannis is a really competitive dude. He is one of the most competitive guys in the league. And everyone I talked to was like, they're going to have to, if he wants to play, they're going to have to like get a room full of guys to keep him off the court because he's so competitive. So I think that's kind of interesting here. I will say that regardless of what happens in game 1, I'm definitely going to be on the Bucks in game 2. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there. Just like, unless there's some sort of massive development, which, hey, in these NBA playoffs, you can never rule out. I'm going to be on the Bucks in game 2. Thanks for joining us. This has been Heat Check presented by BetMGM. Make sure to download the Action Network app. Track all of your bets and get up to the second information on lines and money and where it's coming from and all of our analysis. And you can follow Justin and Preston in the app. Thanks for joining us on Heat Check, presented by BetMGM.